Hi, my name is Andy Pacino. I'm an education management consultant and I work out of Dubai. I left school at 16 with no qualifications, and my last post was lecturing at a university, and now I advise undergraduates, postgraduates on academic development and making the most of themselves once they graduate with their degree certificate. The question is, how did I go from working from a factory at 16 to teaching at one of Australia's top universities? As I said, I had no qualification when I left school. My first job was at a car factory. I used to make car seats for Triumph. It's an old car company that has gone out of business. After that, I did a couple of labouring jobs here and there, and then I started a taxi company. I ran that for a couple of years and I sold it. Then I was a black belt martial artist, and so I opened a bunch of clubs, and I taught martial arts for a couple of years, and then I sold those clubs, and then I went to Manchester, where I started working for Whitbread, who are, I don't know if they still are, but they were Britain's biggest licensed retailers at the time. I used to do relief management for pubs around the Manchester area. Around about that time, the government wanted the whole of the UK to get into higher education, and so I thought now's a great time to do that. So I sort of went through the back door via an access to higher education certificate. Once I passed that, I went to Bangor University, where I studied English Lit. And while I was there, I also learned German and Welsh. Most of the German I've forgotten. I'm okay with the Welsh. Once I finished my degree, I went to Bedford and I took a CELTA course. Now the CELTA was a kind of a parachute. If ever I really needed to do something, then I could teach English as a foreign language. So that actually came in very, very handy, because that's what got me to where I am today. Once I passed my CELTA, as luck would have it, or not as the case may be, we had an awful lot of refugees coming into the UK at the time from the Bosnian Kosovo conflict, and so a lot of them came into Bedford, and so I began teaching them. Actually, the day after I finished my CELTA certificate, I started teaching at the college that I'd taken the certificate at, so that was fortunate for me. So I did that for a short while, and then I left. I got an offer to work at a newspaper in Manchester, and so I went up there. It was on the production side. I sort of sub-edited and wrote features later on, but essentially I had to design the newspaper electronically. Within 12 months of working there, I was made the deputy production manager. And this is a role that normally takes 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 years to get into, to go into, but I managed to do that within 12 months. While I was at the newspaper also, I wrote my first 2 books. The first one was a football book. It was about following Manchester United when they were going through a really rough patch when Alex Ferguson first started. It was the end of Ron Atkinson's era, and Alex Ferguson first started, and he was going through a terrible time, and so my brothers and I, we used to stay back and talk to him after the matches and give him a bit of a chin up, and we kind of became friends. So that's what that book's about. And the second one is called Sierra Leone Deliver a Blow, which is it's a true story of Operation Barras, which was a mission that the SAS led on a rebel camp in Sierra Leone, a place called Gaberibana. These rebels had taken hostage a bunch of Irish Rangers, and so Tony Blair, who was the Prime Minister at the time, sent in the SAS to rescue them. It was a very successful mission, wiping out virtually all of the West Side Boys, and it was kind of the catalyst that brought the 10-year-long Sierra Leone civil war to an end. So that was a really good result. After I left journalism, I started a broadcast company, a production company. I made an independently produced film, which is called Out of Court, and that follows the breakup of a relationship and the subsequent issue of parental alienation, which is where one half of the party, when they're broken up, decides to use the child as a weapon against the other one, and they deny contact, and it's all sort of horrible mind games. And essentially, out of court is the upshot of what happens with parental alienation. I also used to film track days for Ferrari and Aston Martin at the Silverstone racetrack in the UK, and make corporate videos, band videos, music videos, things like that. And the last part of my job before I sold the company was setting up a TV studio for one of the UK's biggest publishers. From there, I used my CELTA to get back into education. I got a job in Changsha, which is the capital city of the Hunan province in China. In that post, I was foreign liaison manager and teacher, and I worked with local business dignitaries and government officials, sort of bringing their people into the college and moving some of our people into their workspace. And it was a sort of hand-in-hand government and business and educational role that I did there. From China, I went to Saudi Arabia, and I worked in a city called Yanbu for I think 2.5-3 years, and there I was the site director. I ran the English program for one of the technical vocational colleges there. I did that for, as I say, for 2.5 years, and then I got offered a job in Riyadh with their best teacher training college over there. And I'd been there for 2 days when I realised that the material they'd got there wasn't really suited to the purpose, and so I spoke to the heads of department there and said, look, do you mind if I rewrite this curriculum and change the syllabi? And they said, yeah, we're okay with that, we can do that. I explained why. Now, at the time, I was doing my first master's, which was in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages, and so part of my course was dealing with curriculum, and so it was doing the two hand in hand meant that I could put my theory into practice and my practice back into the theory. So that was a really good fit. Helped me an awful lot. It meant that I'd got that hands-on experience that I could take into other roles, as my career progressed. While I was in Riyadh, my wife and I also opened as far as I'm aware, the only expat-owned private gallery, which became a top 15 attraction on TripAdvisor in Riyadh within the first 2 months of its opening. So, all right, there wasn't a huge amount of competition there, but it's something that we were proud of. It was the gallery was a kind of a focal go-to point. Since 2017, I've been working in Dubai, first of all at an Australian university where I lectured in critical thinking, and I provided academic development help for undergrad and postgrad students. Now, while I was there, what I wanted to it'd been a couple of years since I did my last master's, and so I thought the best way for me to help is to become a student again. So I undertook my second master's degree, this time in education, again to connect and get back into the student vibe thing. It meant that I could offer better, more up to the minute advice to the students, and I knew what they were doing then. So I'll come back to the masters in a short while. As well as dealing with the academic side of things there, I was also the one-man courier department. The reason that started was because I used to get emails from Olive, Indeed, Monster, Gulf Talent, asking for interns, and do I know anyone that could fill this position? And I thought, why am I doing your job? And why haven't we got our own job site? So I went and spoke to the CEO at the time, and explained this situation to him, and said that it would be really valuable for the university to have its own job site, which meant that I could go and speak to all the local businesses who possibly didn't want to or couldn't afford to advertise on Olive and these places, because they cost a lot of money. So if we offered this service for nothing, then we could bring those smaller businesses in. But what we could also do is we could offer our students first dibs at any jobs that came up there. And also, if I approached the big companies that Olive and Indeed and GovTalent used, or that use those sites, then our students might have a better chance of getting a position through us rather than through these other places. So I built up literally hundreds of relationships with the small and medium-sized businesses in the region, so that our students became more employable. I also helped them with their CV building, with their LinkedIn profile, how to connect, how to work LinkedIn. Essentially, it's a really important sign. So it was in their interest to do that. To get the job site done, I spoke to the IT department. I explained essentially what we wanted. So they built a site very quickly, which worked quite well, but there were still things that could be improved with it. I think we learned as we went along. It was the first time anyone there had done it. So after we built the portal, we knew where its flaws were. So what we needed to do was address these. But we didn't want to I didn't want to bring an outside company in, because I thought if we used some of our star ex-students who we'd taught, then it would not only sort of be putting our money where our mouths are, because if we're using our ex-students, it means that they're doing this job, and they're doing this job because we taught them how to do the job, and and that we have faith in them to do the job. And if we can't have faith in what we teach, then what does that say about us? So when I sort of approached it that way with it was a new GM at this time. It was a no-brainer. You kind of had to do it. So so we did that, and we became responsible for setting up those people on their path to future glory too. So that was a fantastic result. Because I've got so many industry contacts, I also initiated termly industry panel discussions and brought some of the region's biggest entrepreneurs, business leaders and startup investors to the university to deliver presentations and workshops to our business students, as well as termly industry panel discussions and networking sessions, again with some of the biggest players there. I brought in a guy called John Sioris from InstaShop. He was one of the founders of InstaShop. That's an app, it's an online shopping app that's recently sold for $360 million. And John gave one of the best, most enlightening business presentations that we had there. He'd been there, he'd done it, he'd got the business. It talks about how a few of his previous ventures failed, but it never stopped him sort of going forward with what he wanted to do and running the business. His business partner, Cosmin Mania, also guested one of our industry panel discussions, which I put on every term. Other guests included Akram Asaf, who's the founder and CEO of Bait.com. There was Dave Jones, who was the founder and CEO of the Talent Enterprise. There was Mohammed Chabib, who again founder and CEO of Tradelink, which is one of the region's biggest B2B organizations. Deborah Webster, who's founder and CEO of Amani Circle. Another guy, Jazir Jalal, who's an e-commerce multimillionaire and angel investor. The founder of Muslima and the co-founder of Lock and Stock. And you can see where I'm going with this, massive names. These people are the biggest hitters in the region. They're huge industry players. And I managed this single-handed, and I took the university's KHDA employability rating from 0 to 5 stars in only 2 years, and that's something that the university is still very proud of. They still push that out there, and it's something it's an achievement that I'm really proud of too. I've also coached and mentored business students to winning industry-sponsored competitions. I deliver academic development workshops to my own students. I represent universities at trade shows. I visit schools in the area where I deliver academic sessions to help students understand what's expected of them once they get to university. I still offer these sessions free of charge to schools in the region, and the feedback I've had so far has been excellent. It's very, very encouraging. With this in mind, I can bring top talent to universities in this region. And what doing that does is help make the students the best that they can be. My mantra has always been that I want the students that I'm involved with, the students I teach and coach, to be the best that they can be. I want them to be the best prepared, the best connected, and the best able, with the best chances to get on in the UAE. What I've recently done too is interviewed some of the world's best and most well-known educators. Those interviews have attracted more than 100,000 views on my YouTube channel, and there are hundreds of subscribers to the channel. That's growing on a daily basis. I've interviewed Stephen Krashen, who is one of the world's leading ESL and language researchers 3 times. In fact, I used to quote Steve Krashen and to think that he knows who I am now, and that we've chatted, and and I've sent him coffee and he's read my books and stuff. It's a great feeling. Also David Crystal, who is probably the world's most eminent linguist. He's written over 100 books. He's seriously well known. He's a massive player. Also in the transnational education arena, which is sort of branch campuses, I've interviewed Vangelis Ziligiris, Fabrizio Trevillo and Chris Hill. And then there's Nick Bilbrough from the Hands Up Project, which it's a charity that he initiated for Palestinian kids to learn English, and a ton of other things. And again, you can see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. But what I also want to do is to let you into a bit of a secret. As I mentioned, I've already completed a Master's in Education. Something you might not believe, but is absolutely true. I did not read a single paper all the way through, not one. Yet I got distinctions and high distinctions in every single one of my units. How did I do that? Well, it's a secret, but I'm willing to let you in on it. So watch out for the next video.